Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of To The Point podcast. Everybody's doing well on this Wednesday, and we are in the midst of some hockey chaos here in Canada, where we have some really great teams, and then there are some other teams on the opposite end of the spectrum. And tonight, I thought it'd be fun to have a little hockey roundtable and talk about something I love, which is about rebuilds, who you should hire, coach, GM, things of that nature. And we got a big Montreal fan on the line as well, so that doesn't hurt to get a perspective from a fan. So before we get going, they've been on here before, but first I'll introduce the coach of the Richbuckler Rangers, the founder of Campbell's Cognitive Therapy, Rankyn Campbell. Rankyn, how are you?
Pretty good, Noah. Thanks for having me on.
No, I appreciate you coming back. You're had some great takes last time, and we'll talk about Vancouver and how right you were about them the last time you were on. So we'll get to that in a second. And also joining us is suffering Montreal Canadiens fan right now. Great physical education. I want to put that in, not gym, physical education teacher. And in Elsie Booktook, my good friend, Cole Macdonald. Cole, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me, Jug.
No, absolutely, guys. And, we had the great chat with Shay last time, but he's a busy guy with the house and the girlfriend and losing the salad.
He doesn't work Wednesdays or what?
Well, yeah. he's a hectic guy, that Shay. But, hockey's been super interesting so far. I mean, you saw, a wild night last night where Florida comes back from 3 goals down. You got St. Louis came from 3 goals down. LA nearly completed the comeback. But coming back to Canada, the Montreal Canadiens have had a really bad start to the season. And the other day they cleaned house, firing Marc Bergevin, AGM, Scott Mellenby resigned. Communications director decided to part ways with the team. They are going down a new path. They've hired Jeff Gorton, the former general manager of the New York Rangers, as their de facto president. So, Cole, I want to start with you as a Montreal fan. Did you think it was the right move to let Bergie and the rest of the hockey ops crew leave?
Tough question. Like as a Habs fan, like most other Habs fans, you're critical, but I haven't been critical of Bergevin. I thought he's made a lot of good moves. He's got a set of balls, which I really like. He makes bold trades. He's willing to put his neck on the line, and a lot of them have panned out for him. I think he did a good job. Maybe I do kind of see there was time. Things aren't going well. He did have a long run. But I'm not going to sit there and throw him on the bus saying he was the worst GM ever. I really liked him as a GM, honestly. And I like that he didn't just make little moves or blame this or that. I think Ducharme him re-sign Ducharme probably hurt him with the start they had. I wasn't a big fan of the firing, honestly. I thought he did a great job. It is time for a new start. I kind of see that, and I see what it was kind of done, but I think to find another GM like Bergevin who's bilingual is going to be tough to replace him.
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting point here. The bilingual, I talked about that yesterday, and it gets me going every time, but I won't get to Rankyn. Love to hear your thoughts before we dive into that spicy meatball, as it were.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's not often you see a GM take a team within a couple of games of winning a Stanley Cup, and 5-6 months later he's let go, right? So he didn't forget how to do the job. I mean, he built a real strong contender last year, and he had a few good runs over his 9-10 seasons that he was with Montreal. I think that sometimes you gotta shake it up, and everyone has their set runway really when you get into those jobs. But I think that one thing I'll say about Bergevin is, even though they let him go, he didn't leave them in that bad a shape. And I think that somebody's going to step into a pretty good spot there in terms of taking over taken over for him. So I would agree with Cole that, he did a solid job in Montreal and in that market. And I'm a Bergevin fan for sure. So.
Yeah, I think the one criticism I have of him is that maybe Suzuki will grow into this, but over his close to a 10-year tenure as the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens, he was never able to get a number one center. And I get that's easier said than done, but he was there for a decade and he never had one. That was just something I thought they always lacked as a team. I think the Subban trade was a home run from the beginning. I was one that really said that was a good thing for the organization. I think that's proven to be true. Now that PK is known more for slew footing than his play on the ice. But do you agree with that, Cole? Do you think that he was not able to get a number one center over his tenure, or am I missing somebody through the past, 8-9 years?
No, I agree with you. I just think, I don't think he drafted Galchenyuk. Maybe he did, but that was kind of their hope, their overall. You got another one with Kotkaniemi. I just think they were on the right path. Like, they tried. Like, it's so hard to get number one centerman. And really, like, it's a picky. I'm very fussy when you call someone a number one centerman. Like, I'm a Montreal fan. Is Suzuki number one centerman? I don't think so today. Can he be? Maybe. And I think he will be, but like, there's like Anze Kopitar, Crosby, David, like, you know what I mean? There's a tier, they're a tier above. I mean, there's a lot more I'm missing too, but number one centerman is not Nick Suzuki today.
Right.
I think he can grow into it. But yeah, you were right, Juggy. He never got a number one centerman. I think he did a good job of the rebuild, but to stick up for him too, again, I know it's not number one center, but his best two players this year aren't playing. Maybe Shea Weber's not your top two players, but your leaders in Price and Weber are out.
Absolutely.
I know they're not McDavid and Draisaitl, but if you take Draisaitl and McDavid off Edmonton, they're in the same spot Montreal is, I think. And I know they're not the same players. They're different positions, but their leaders are gone. Edmonton's a lot of injuries early in the season. I think that's why they are where they are. Do I think if all those guys are there, they're 12-3? No, I think if they have all their guys, no injuries, maybe they're 10-8, 10-7.
Right.
With Price. But yeah, I agree with you on the center thing. He never did get a number one center. He tried, he drafted, you know what I mean? And I think the Suzuki trade was a good trade. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But no, you are right, Juggy. He never got number one center, and that kills you in this league. If you don't have that guy, I really don't. You can't win. You can't win unless you have a stud in the center, and really, you can't win unless you have two.
Yeah, you look at Tampa. I mean, they've had two in the last number of years. I mean, you're dead on. But you look at their team. I agree with you. I think what missing Weber is so critical, and obviously Price. I mean, Jake Allen went through his injuries as well, but when you have Sam Montembeault and Caden Primo, those are two AHL goaltenders. You're not going to beat anybody in the NHL. They hired Jeff Gordon. And you kind of mentioned that Bergevin didn't leave them high and dry like a lot of, quote unquote rebuilds. And I've heard that mentioned by the media, and I don't completely agree with it because I think they have players that, this isn't Arizona or Buffalo where you're left with literally nothing. They have some really interesting players that I think they should want to keep. But with the hire of Jeff Gordon, who's not the GM, because you can't hire a GM in Montreal that's, can't speak French. Let's be honest here. He's more of a president. Do you think he'll serve as more of a kind of a Brendan Shanahan-esque role in Montreal and kind of oversee what the GM does moving forward?
Well, from what Jeff Molson said, their owner, I would only going off by what he said in his press conference, but his argument was that it's better to have two people making tough decisions than one. So it sounds to me like even though he has that title, that like a lot of teams are kind of going to more of that two people in power position. So I think that Jeff is going to have a lot of say in the transactions that they make. But again, I could be totally off. I'm not sure who they're going to hire, but I do like the fact that they played their card early, and whoever they hire gets a chance to go through the trade deadline. I think that's really important. And like, if you're not going to re-sign Bergevin, which we kind of knew for a couple months when they didn't extend him, let him go and give your new guy a crack moving into the trade deadline. And then he gets another crack in the summer to really get his hands on the team. So like, it speeds up the process, because it really annoys me when they have a GM and they let him make moves in critical times, but he's already on thin ice.
Like
so
Peter Chiarelli.
Peter Chiarelli, and Edmonton is still paying for that move. So I never understood that. It really opened my eyes to that. So I'll give Jeff Molson. It's Jeff Molson. Is that their guy's name?
Yeah.
Good move. Make it in November rather than in May or after the season. So
Yeah, I completely agree. I've said that too, Rank. Like, Calgary's had a hot start, and they're kind of slapping me in the face because I had no faith in that team, but they've been playing really well. Jacob Markstrom is, looking like a Vezina winner. But, if Treliving's on thin ice, why not let him go before? Why let him make decisions that can harm your organization long term? So I completely agree with your point there. Cole, for GM candidates, do you have a person that's kind of on your radar that you think would be a good hire for Montreal?
Well, like, if you take the circumstances into consideration, right? Like, they're not going to hire. I mean, they already hired their English guy. So to me, it's looking like Patty Roy, Briere, Luongo, Darce, someone like this, right? Like a French speaking. And I do think you need someone who can speak French, especially in Montreal in that market. Anyway, I don't know. I kind of like Patty Roy. He reminds me of Bergevin with, yes, he's gonna put it on the table for it. He's not gonna pussyfoot around things. Like, he wants it his way or the highway, or he's willing to make the bold move, which I like. Like, there's no point standing pat, sitting back, scared. I hired you to do a job, do it.
Well, he's already proven that he can handle the pressure in Montreal, right? So as a player, as a goaltender. So of course he can handle it as a general manager. So I agree, Cole. He put somebody in there that's already hardened and they know the game.
And same with like media pressure. Not that maybe every GM doesn't give a shit about media and pressure, but I know he doesn't for sure. Right? Or he can deal with it. I don't know. I like Patty Roy. I also like Luongo. Right? These guys kind of like catchers. They see the game from a different standpoint. Broder's in that thing too. A lot of goalies in the mix, really. Darce, I don't know a lot about Darce. I remember him playing for the Habs. I mean, you're at Tampa Bay. It's
not bad.
If you learn what's going on there, you know what I mean. They're doing everything right, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, and Bergevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but they have 10 picks this year in the draft, eh?
Yeah.
They got 10 picks. So again, they got 10 picks, and I wouldn't know this off the top of my head, but I looked it up, and like a lot of their money is going to come off in a few years, right? So it shouldn't be like, you shouldn't have to do a complete tear it down and build it back up. And we took, you can kind of retool it on the fly. There'll be a few leaner years, but you're not that far away for whoever takes over.
You know what I like about these, like Patty Roy, Luongo, these guys who play, like, I love Stevie Y, because if it doesn't matter, Stevie Y is one of the greatest players ever. Same with Joe Sakic. Not, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to go into a contract negotiation saying, oh, I deserve this to Stevie Y or Joe Sakic. Okay, McDavid, go ahead and say, I'm sick, whatever. But, like, you're going to go in there and tell him, oh, I deserve all this money when these guys made pennies to you, / were way better than almost anyone that ever played. Like, you're not pushing these guys around, because you honestly, if I go into a meeting and say, "Oh, Stevie Y, I need $10 million a year. This is."
Yeah, no, I agree, Cole.
You're not going to do that to like Patty Roy. Patty Roy, you're going to feel embarrassed yourself. Is what I'm trying to say. Like, these guys have a pedigree,
right?
And I'm going to go back to Bergevin. Like, besides for Carey, who is a stud, he didn't overpay. He didn't panic and pay someone money. Like, I love that he let Danault. Do I like Danault? I really think Danault's a good player. They're missing him big time this year. But he wasn't going to overpay, which I think is like a big flaw in a lot of GMs.
Totally agree.
Panic. And I'm not in that situation where I might be fired tomorrow. F it. Hire, pay the guy today so you keep your job for 2 more months or whatever. Hopefully you get through it. Worry about it tomorrow. But Stevie Y is not like that. Joe Sakic's not making these decisions. I don't know.
Who do you think they're going to hire? Cole. Who do you think they're going to hire, Noah?
The more you talk about Patrick Waugh, Cole, the more I like it. Before I hated it. And the reason is because Patrick Waugh can be a good GM. I do think he's a good GM, but he's been, a GM in the queue, and he hasn't won a President's Trophy since 2006. So, I mean, he's also one of the best markets there and hasn't been able to win.
What are you winning with?
Quebec.
What player was on the team?
I'm not mentioning that guy. You can talk about it. You can talk about Radulov later, okay? But yeah, the one thing he won in his career. But I think if Gordon, if it's like, if Gordon's Geppetto and Patrick Waugh's Pinocchio and he's just playing him on the string, that's not going to work. Because as you guys just mentioned, Patrick Waugh is such a presence, and I think it's going to be a hard time if it's, both heads together. What my thinking is, Montreal is going to hire a French-speaking GM that is just going to be like the Charlie Montoyo to Ross Atkins scenario, where Gordon's making decisions, but the mouthpiece is just relaying what they're doing to the media. That's kind of how I feel. And if that happens, I don't think it'll be an ex-player, because I don't think Bobby Lou, I don't think Patrick Waugh, and maybe Danny Briere might do that. I don't know enough about Danny Briere, but he didn't play the game with a whole lot of fervor. So maybe Danny Briere is that guy.
What about Luc Robitaille? He'd be another candidate.
Yeah.
I thought about him. He's worked for LA for a while.
Yeah.
And he might be again, I have no idea who they're even really considering, but I thought he might be all right in that position too. But
I have a few names that I put on Vancouver's list that I don't think Montreal will hire, because I don't know if they are French speaking, but they have been good. This is a name I'll throw out there. I don't think he'll be hired, but I think it's an interesting one. Mark Hunter has been one of the best junior GMs in the past 10, 20 years in London. His program is, you don't need to talk about the London Knights. They just own the OHL and, for CHL hockey, to be fair. And he didn't really get his chance in Toronto. I think Mark Hunter would be an interesting ad, and he's an outside the box thinker. And I think he knows junior players, and he knows how to draft them and develop them.
You're thinking that Vancouver's going to take a shot at him, or Montreal?
I think either would be a good idea for them too, but I think Montreal, again, just going out, picking a different type guy, going outside the box would be interesting.
Yeah. When do you feel they're going to make a call on that? Like, how long can they keep going like this?
To your point, you want to have that kind of in place before the trade deadline. I mean, you do have Gordon, so he can make those decisions, but it would surprise me if they don't have a GM by, I would say maybe by the Olympic break. Maybe you come back and you have that structure in place. So by the trade deadline, if you want to move specific players, you have your full brain trust there with Jeff Molson, and then you can, move on proactively.
Yeah, I would think at least, I was thinking they should get somebody in there right away.
Yeah.
Is that not the vibe? Is that not the vibe that you get? Like,
I think.
Yeah, go ahead, Cole.
Gordon is that fallback, right? He's a GM. You're not giving him the actual title, but he has the GM pedigree. He's a GM. He's not going to be the GM on paper, but he can fill in for that void, right?
Right.
For now, it'll be shortly they hire someone. I don't know. I just feel like he's in another. If you have the money, I know Dodgers. I just can't even think of the names of the Dodgers, but they hire these guys all the time. I feel like they used to. If you look at Bergevin with Deneau. Like Montreal might have, I know he's from Quebec. There's a little more background, but they plucked Deneau from Chicago because, my opinion, because Bergevin knew what he was. Maybe Bergevin had a hand in
Right.
drafting him. Right. So they get Gordon. Now I know Kravtsov's on the trade block, whatever, but
Knows him.
if this guy can pluck a couple guys from the Rangers that they can get for a steal of a deal or something, maybe that's his worth right there. Like, I know this is far fetched, but like the Dodgers will sign 5 former GMs from other teams. They don't care about the money. They have all this insight of organizations who's. If you have deep pockets like Montreal, Toronto, why not? Why
Right.
not sign as many guys as you can? Now I know it's hard to do a job with 5 guys saying no, whatever, but if they can get on the same page, I do think he's a GM right now that can fill in, but a couple months or a month, they'll hire someone here shortly.
Yeah. Pivoting to head coach, is Don Ducharme the head coach next year, Cole?
Tough to say. Rate if he keeps going at this rate, I don't think so. I think Don Ducharme I think Don Ducharme originally, I don't mind him as a coach. He had great success, Halifax, a lot of our friends and stuff. I think he was brought in originally. Well, he's a good coach, not just because of this, but to hopefully mold Drouin and get Drouin back on track. Right? He had great success with Drouin early in his career. But if things keep going the same way, no, he won't be there. Go back to the deep pockets. Who cares if you have to pay him for 2 more years? If Montreal's not a place that you accept losing, right? Like,
yeah,
if there's no rebuild, you just kind of remold or whatever. But no, if things go, if they really, really miss the playoffs and don't get things back on track, I think he's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think, GMs like to hire their own guy. Yep. And I honestly think Patrick Waugh would be a better choice as head coach than GM, because I look at a guy like Drouin, and if you don't want to give up on him, have a coach that's actually tough on him, because Patrick Waugh will grill this guy. Jonathan Drouin is one of the laziest hockey players in the NHL. It's frustrating to watch him because his back check, I back check harder on my couch going to grab a bag of chips. And I look at him, I look at certain players. Gallagher, his effort this year has been really lackluster. He doesn't have that same, fervor. I think you get a guy like Patrick Waugh, his practices are going to be tough. He's going to be tough on the players. And I think he'd be better suited in that role than as GM. I think that would be an interesting hire. And he's also, bilingual.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. But I don't think he will be the coach.
Right. Yeah.
Be interesting to see what happens to them. And I was looking at their roster. There's a few guys that they can flip at the deadline. So you get a couple pieces back, or add a couple extra picks, and they're not bad out. Like Cole, you mentioned the other week, even though I'm not a Sherratt fan, you could probably get a 1st-round pick for him at the deadline for teams looking for a defenseman.
Yeah. And another thing that
Kulak's there too. Kulak's in a UFA. So you move those 2 guys.
Just think about their host in the draft. That has a lot of play in why they've had all these picks the last couple. I think why they've tried to get all these picks. Their host in the draft. It's kind of easier to go into the rebuild or sell for picks if you're hosting it, right? You can sell that to your owner, your fans. Okay, we suck. We're shipping all these guys for picks, but in 3 months you can come watch us make all these fabulous picks.
Right. And yeah, I mean, we stink. We're gonna get Shane Wright. Like, let's come to the draft. Buy his jersey. That type. I agree. It's interesting. I forgot that it was in Montreal because of. I think it was supposed to be like 2 years ago now, but with COVID blocking it twice, good to get the draft back in a Canadian city and back with fans. Carey Price. It's kind of been the elephant in the room. We haven't brought that one up yet, but. Hasn't played this year, obviously went through what he went through. I'm not going to speculate on the severity, what happened, but he was in rehab for over a month. He's back out now. I saw him, he was skating the other day with no pads. So clearly it's not a quick transition back to playing, but Is Carey Price a part of this team long term, or is he one of those guys that you look to flip?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I just think that like I would keep him around because you need to have some veteran guys to bring along your young guys. Like look at what Ottawa's got going on. They're in big danger of becoming the Edmonton of the 2010s because they cleaned out house so much that there's nobody left. But like you think about like Caulfield, that Caden Gooley guy, and Primo. I mean, I'm not a goaltender, so I don't really know if he's going to be that good. But if he's your hope, keep Price around and get the team some leadership and bring along these young guys that you're going to have over the next couple of years. And then maybe in the last year or two of his deal, you can move him. But I would keep some leadership in the room. I think he's worth it just for that. Even if, and that's to say that like, he can still play. He proved that last year. So that's like all that aside from his play. Like I'm still a huge Price fan. Like he's probably going to start for Canada at the Olympics potentially, even though he hasn't skated in 5 months. So that speaks for itself. So I would keep him if it was me. You can't have 20 young guys playing in Montreal and expect them to rebuild on that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rankyn. And GM mindset, mode, or whatever you want to call it. What do you trade him for? I mean, yeah, if you're going to give me back a stud, sure. But it's $10.5 million. You see these moves. You can't move these guys easily, right? Like,
yeah.
So unless you're getting back another stud that's going to help you, which you're not going to, I don't think you're going to get. His value right now is very low for someone making 10.5. I think you keep him around too. At the end, friggin', like you said, Rank, at the end, you maybe flip him, but at the end of his career, they're probably going to be back in it. And he has that.
Yeah.
He has that notoriety or whatever it's called, that swagger, I guess. That
keep him around, man.
Do you think if Jake Allen's on that team last year, they make it? Now, Jake Allen had a great regular season. I love Jake Allen, but do you think they make it to the Cup final without Jake?
They don't beat Toronto.
Without Carey?
No, not at all.
He is your star. He's not as good as McDavid. He won a Hart Trophy a while ago, but when he comes into that zone, he gets in that zone.
Mm-hmm.
He's all you got, really. I like Shea Weber. I said earlier is one of their best players, but I don't know. He keeps
when he's on his game, he's the most valuable player in the NHL,
especially for Montreal.
Yes, because they don't. Last year, their team was not that great.
No, and they play defensive trap game. They don't have the offensive power to play. They play in like he's their best defenseman. He makes half their breakout passes.
Yeah, because Kulak can't.
Kulak's going to fetch a first-round pick at the deadline.
Oh, yeah, he's getting nothing.
Kulak, maybe a first and a fourth if he picks
Gustafson.
up.
Gustafson was really playing well last year in the playoffs, too. Yeah, I would keep him as well. And I think for Montreal, key things for them, for me, keep developing Suzuki. Like Cole said, hopefully he becomes your number one center. But even if he's not a 100-point guy, Bergeron's been an 75, 80-point guy for 15 years. And I think he's the number one center in Boston. So that works. Romanov I think the kid's great. I love the way he plays. But maybe you have to send him down to Laval for a bit. That's not a bad thing. I don't think that should be criticized.
He has a clause, I think.
What's that?
I think he has a clause in his contract where he can go back to Russia.
Oh, okay.
If he's sent down.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you though, Joe. Yeah. But I think that's why it's not happening.
Right. Yeah.
I could be wrong,
but he's lacking some confidence right now. And I watch him, he looks a little indecisive, but I think he's got Drew Doughty upside, and I would not give up on this kid because I love the way he plays. And then hope that Caulfield and Primo and a few of these other younger, cheaper guys can hit for you, because they do have some good tickets, Rank. I agree, but they do have some contracts that are going to be tough to move. And I look at a guy like Gallagher. I look at the Armia contract. I love Josh Anderson, but he's not as consistent as I'd like him to be. These contracts aren't looking great at present time.
You got Caden Gooley coming too on D, so he'll help, and he'll help the back end for sure, but they're not in terrible shape. Obviously, they're not in great shape, or they wouldn't have just fired their general manager. But
Fire hockey ops.
yeah, yeah. But all in all, at the end of the day, they went to the Cup final last year, so they're in a different situation than some of the other teams. Like, but I think one of the points, is like, I think I agree with you that you should send some of the kids down for a bit, but we're doing the opposite of that now. We're bringing them all up and we're paying them. Like,
Yeah.
look at Hughes. He just got 64 million. Yes, he's a first overall pick, but he's got 55 points in 100 some games and he's 160 pounds. Like, I don't know. I think we're paying them a little early too. Same with Suzuki. Suzuki hasn't really proved that much.
So Jug, I think whoever just said it, like, he's not a 110 point center, Suzuki. But if you look, Montreal kind of reminds me of the Islanders, but they're not as good right now. But you're not going to, under Trotz, you're not going to get that 100-point season out of Barzal.
Mm-hmm.
Barzal's a good centerman, I think, but it's just, I've been a Montreal fan my whole life. I don't remember anyone getting 100 points. And not that we had superstars or bad people, but it's just kind of, it's not that kind of run and gun. It's all defense, I find. A lot of defensive mindset, coaches, team. You don't have enough. You don't have the stars you don't have the Matthews. You don't have the McDavids, the guys who run away with these scoring races. So I find it kind of keeps you in check, honestly. Because if you have a guy get 100 and some points, like Rankyn, these young guys are getting paid way too early. Way too early, way too much without proving anything.
Look at Pettersson.
Oh my God.
And like, kind of going back to Roy, go in and ask Roy for $10 million at 21 years old.
Exactly. No, I like your point about that. I like that.
It's well put for sure, because you're gonna feel a lot more confident going to do that to Kyle Dubas than you would to Patrick Roy.
Yeah.
But even Shanahan's a tough guy. Is he in those meetings? Like, what the hell what's going on? What happened in Toronto?
Well, I don't know, but like, I know you're scared to lose them, and a lot of teams are trying to build through the draft, but some of these contracts are going to come back to bite these teams.
Look at Chicago.
For a long time.
At least Chicago won 3 cups before they gave away their whole team.
I agree with you, Jug, and that's when I will overpay.
Yes.
You did this. You brought 3 cups to our city, Kane Tays. We owe it to you. You
earned it.
You come through on your end of the bargain. We'll come through on ours. I mean, if they're making 15, I know it's ridiculous, but at least they got the job done. A lot of people are getting paid this money. They're working at Foodland last year. I mean, they're 20 years old. I don't agree with paying these young guys huge. I used to be against the bridge deal, but now I'm kind of for it.
Yeah. Well, I think the bridge deal is the best when you think you can win in that period.
It's the way that the cap's structured too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at what happened. Look at what happened to Montreal. Montreal with Carolina last year.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the GMs are panicked, because Kotkaniemi got poached.
Yeah.
So you draft him, you spend all your time, energy, and money developing him, preaching to the fan base patience, and then he's gone before his prime. So what happens is that now GMs are so scared of that, they overpay early, and they overpay early.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't been in this situation, none of us are GMs, but they're putting their neck on the line, and they don't know. You don't know if Kotkaniemi's now. He's a 1-year deal, fine, but
it depends too. Depends. Okay, when a GM takes over a team, what are how many years do you think they're working with in their head? Because they don't care if they sign him for 7 years, but they know they're getting canned after 5 if they don't win.
Right.
Right, like that's why teams take over teams that are sewer. Yeah, so Ken Holland doesn't care about Zach Hyman in 5 years. Ken Holland cares about if they're going to win the cup the next 2 years.
Absolutely.
So you got to remember that too. But like, so the GM, they're all working with different time frames, and it depends on the market too. Because sometimes you need a stud, you need to overpay because you're dying at the gate.
Yeah, I mean, for like Carolina, people don't go to the games till the playoffs. Getting a star is more important there. For Montreal, fans are gonna show up, so that should be a market where you preach patience. You know, you say, well, maybe we'll give it a bridge. We can compete in this window, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But I think the problem is some GMs have started this precedent, and now you go into free agency. You want to add and improve your team. Well, you got to give out big salaries in longer term because the players know that they'll get it elsewhere. So that those teams that want to be competitive are just left holding the bag with nothing.
Yeah, the players are in control. Look at baseball right now. The players are complaining and
they're going to lock out. Yeah.
It's crazy. They just gave out over $2 billion in free agency. Was it something like that?
Yeah. Corey Seager got $325 million. He's got a bad back. He can't play half the year. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's. Yeah. Sure is wife.
Short term.
I'll give you the money for 3 years. I know he's a bit older, but
yeah,
8, 10, like I'll pay you while you're good for now. I know he's still older, but
his Scherzer's wife's like, yeah, hon, I think you should pack it in. You know, we've had a good run here, a couple sides. You got your World Series. Yeah, maybe you'll hang out with the kids. Then he gets a call from old Stevie Cohen. I'll give you 43 large or 3. You see the wife just spark up. Maybe you got a little bit left in that arm, you know.
Oh dear.
But
yeah, be interesting to see the Mets this year. He don't mind signing checks, anyways.
No, he doesn't mind tweeting. He doesn't mind signing checks. Oh, Stevie Cohen. But let's pivot to another tire fire in Canada, and this one I think is worse than the Montreal situation. But I want to start with Rank because it's this conversation about one of his favorite little guys, a good old jet black Jim Benning, the GM of the Vancouver Canucks. Rank, with all that's gone on over his tenure, and not a lot of it's been positive. How is he still employed today when Marc Bergevin is fired?
Oh man. Yeah, I think we were trying to answer that question in the summer, right? Or whenever the last time you had us on, but I don't know. It's not looking good in Vancouver, and like the future doesn't look good because there's not much you can do with that team, even if you take over. So how I was saying that Bergevin didn't handcuff them as bad, even if you put a new GM in there, they got a lot of digging out to do to make that team competitive, I feel. And it's too bad, you know, seeing the Canadian team in that situation. But
yeah,
you know, it's still the big one for me. You let Markstrom go and you sign Demko at $5 million, but you wouldn't pay Markstrom $6 million. So just little decisions like that, even it's not the best, and we were kind of talking about the Pettersson one, but again, maybe he felt that pressure that you got to get him under contract, but I think he just over evaluated his team and thought they were better than they were. They're really show no signs of it.
Yeah, Cole, and any big thoughts about Jimmy Benning?
Well, it just kind of brought me back to like Rank. I agree with everything Rank said. He's been roasting them for years, but like we're talking about having more than one GM or people making decisions, and you know what I mean. To me, it looks like Benning was making a lot of decisions by himself and bad decisions. Where maybe it is the right. Maybe it's hard to work with more people. Depends on who you are, but maybe they don't. To me, what I'm saying is like their rebuild, they sped it up too quick, and fuck do I know, but I didn't think they were ready to start going for it, paying guys, make this Toffoli trade. Like, you were good, take it, maybe a late pick for these guys, but they kind of went in too early and they handcuffed themselves. They're back. When you get in that dead man's land of just missing the playoffs, getting shitty picks, fuck, it's a dangerous game. Like, trying to fight. Calgary was close to that. I mean, they're doing really good this year, but like Nashville, maybe I think Benning went for it too early. They had a good team. I really liked Pettersson. I liked Horvat, all these guys, but it was just kind of too soon, too quick, all in with these guys.
I like JT Miller too. I like that signing, but I knew Noah was going to ask me about him, but none of his picks have hit either outside of Quinn Hughes. So their cupboard's pretty bare there. Like, I don't know about that Poglosin kid. Is he going to be good or not. He hasn't done much yet, but
I think he's a top 9 forward at his best.
He's their first round pick in 2019. Like the rest of their drafts, nothing has really hit. That Oli Ulevi defenseman there from like a few years back, he was top 5 pick. He never hit. So you miss a couple of those, you're in trouble too, because those are your rebuilding pieces. But
did he draft Vertanen?
Yep.
Vertanen, he's another top 10 pick that's gone. So I know it's not an easy game drafting, and some kids are going to miss, but I think he really hit the panic button this summer and went out and signed Ekman Larson. And that's a bad signing. That's going to handcuff them for a long time. So
is he related to John Ferguson? A lot of similarities.
But he's not I think the thing that bugs me about him is he's not a leader. We're talking about Pat Roy. You're talking, we're putting him in there, why do we want him in there? We want him in there because it's hockey IQ, but you got other guys that are helping you manage the cap and do the books and see who you can send to the minors for a day and make your team run. It's like you want a leader out there to steer the ship and set the direction. And like, he just doesn't seem to have those leadership qualities. Like he just seems not engaged in his press conferences, the way he dresses. And I don't know. For me, you want your GM to be a leader. The rest of the guys fall in line behind you. And Bergevin did that. Bergevin was the first guy that took the fire. He always protected his guys.
Yep.
I don't see that from Jim Benning. And I think his decision-making skills are poor, but his leadership quality is not as good as some of the other GMs.
Just to add on Rankyn, like when Montreal won and Bergevin was down on the bench with the boys.
Right.
Like
exactly. Those guys went to war for Bergevin. None of those guys in that room are going to war for him. And I really like Travis Green, though. But I think Travis Green's in a hard spot.
He's done.
And I really like Travis Green. If he gets let go, he's going to get another job for sure. But I don't know. That's whoever steps in there has got their hands full, put it that way.
To your point, Rank, about him not being a leader, it seems like and I think I agree with you. I think Travis Green's a good coach, but I think he's completely lost the dressing room because they don't seem to want to play for him either. And it seems like JT Miller is the only player on this roster that gives a shit. Like he plays hard every night. He calls people out. But I look at Horvat, you want to talk about Pettersson. I used to love him because when he lost the puck, he cared about getting it back. He would go and fight his ass off to go get that puck in the corner. Now he loses the puck. Okay, I'll change. Whatever.
No, put some guys on. Have some guys that are on shorter term contracts. Why would you dig in? Why would you dig in this year when you're on the Canucks and you're Ekman Larson and you have guaranteed money, $7 million or whatever it is for another 5 years? But if you got 7 guys that are coming up to go into free agency or they need another contract, they're going to battle a bit. That's another problem with these long-term deals. So then what happens? The coach pays the price every time.
And if you have a GM, who's fired, you will it's $10 million. I'm not going to have it. I'm not giving. Let's fight here for this money. I like Burke says that well. Like if you're going to play on my team, you're going to earn your money. I'm not giving away. It's not my money I'm giving away, right? Like it's millions of dollars. Earn it. It's not freaking minimum wage here. Like I agree. I'm just agreeing with you, Rankyn. Like these short-term contracts, some guys do deserve the long-term contract, but who cares?
Yeah, and I like Quinn Hughes. I do like Quinn. I think the Jack got paid too early. Quinn's an excellent player. And again, Pettersson's still young. Like I think we're asking the players to develop a little too quick, take on too much of too early because of the way that these contracts are structured. But I just think that, again, like not to rip on the guy's a GM in the NHL. I'm not, but like you want your GM to be a leader. All the guys fall in line behind them. And he's the first guy to take the fire and he sets a standard. That's what Lou Lamoriello has done for years. And I think that they got to get a guy like that in there that's going to take over that team.
Yeah, to that point, I'm going to mention Mark Hunter again. He's a guy that I would have on my list. I think Dean Lombardi is a guy that would be an interesting hire. He's been in winning organizations. He's done it before. Another guy for me is a guy like Craig Conroy. He's been AGM in Calgary for a long time, but he's involved in the game. He's worked in different organizations in the OHL. Even as Steve Stais might be an interesting ad. He's doing good things in Kingston now. So having a presence, I think, is big, and having a new perspective, and just maybe that's why I'm going the junior route. This recycling of old GMs, old head coaches, it gets boring for me, and I don't always think it's the right move. I think going to a different landscape is not always a bad thing when you're looking to, revamp your organization.
Yeah, Hunter may work good there, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're going to make a move, do like Montreal did and make the move now. At least give your GM the trade deadline, give them the draft, give them the summer. Those are the three big things that before you put your team on the ice next fall, they have a different makeup. But if you wait too long, you miss that chance, because this season's gone anyways.
And here's something I do. I look at the Calgary model. They had no success last year. But what did they do? They kept Tree Living, which I still disagree with. But nevertheless, they fired Jeff Ward, and they brought in Daryl Sutter midseason. They didn't have a lot of success, but clearly it had an impact, because look at the way they're playing this year. They know what it was expected of Daryl Sutter when you come in there. He's still a hard ass, but you're going to play his style or you're not going to play. And look at Johnny Gaudreau. He's figured out how to be successful in that style. I think for Vancouver, if you're going to fire Travis Green, to your point, Rankyn, fire him now, hire Rick Tocchet, and have him the rest of the year, so that come into training camp next year, you know what's expected. He is a hard-nosed coach, and he's gone through rebuilds. He knows what it's like to be on a bad team and still have a positive attitude, still be tough on his players, and you grow from there.
But I agree, but I wouldn't give Jim Benning another coach.
No. I'm saying
he hasn't earned it. Yeah, fire both of them.
Jimmy Benning should be on the friggin' 405 right now.
I don't know. Look at the roster. You can't expect that roster to beat other good teams in the West. It's just not going to. Yeah, they're underperforming, but they're just not good enough.
No, you can't give him another head coach. But
no,
you can't. Yeah. You only have so many shots of that gun, and
Well, he's had some long leash there. He's had a long leash. So
if you take, though, like we're talking about Montreal or hiring 3 GMs to do one job, or we have all this extra money, and it's not a cap, right?
Yep.
Teams are trying to get better in all these ways, but one thing you can cheat is the cap. Really, something you kind of can. I mean, Tampa did a pretty good job, but if you're going to hire all these guys, and we're looking at Vancouver, I don't know how they're set up, who it's their scout and stuff, but we just talked about Bertan and Levy. Why not dump some money or figure out your scouting? I don't agree with Benning either, but like if you're going to have 3 GMs on these Canadian teams with money, why not figure, I don't know, but those picks really fucked you. I can't. I don't know who went right after them, but I guarantee there's a couple guys that they just fucked up drafting, and it's costing them. Like if you give those 2 studs 5th overall, you should get a player that's really good helping your team. Top 3.
It should be a hit every time. The number 5 pick.
Maybe they don't. Top 3, you should be an absolute stud for your team. Yeah. Those 2 top 5. Pettersson was a 5, and I think he's still a good player. He's working with not much, and like you said, his drive's low. He's not playing well, but he still has the tools to be a star, I think. Hugh Levy and Vertanen were, lost in my opinion, or wrong choices, whatever you want to call it. But to me, that's a big part. You're gonna suck. Those picks gotta count. Like Montreal's pick this year. You can't fuck around. Like you're gonna hire 3 GMs to make these trades for first, blah blah blah, all this stuff. That pick is maybe more important than everything else, right? You make that wrong pick, Louis Blanc. I know it's not the same. You mean it's a lot later pick in the round, but why not dump some money or put some research into your scouting? Like,
yeah, and again, but no, you're right. Just That's why your GM, just have your GM set up to be your team leader. You get enough smart people. You can have all the Harvard grads in the world to run your analytics and your cap, all that other stuff. Your GM, put a true leader in there and a guy that the boys will play for. The coaches will show up to work early to coach for. And you get maybe another couple smart people that he can consult with before the moves and sets you up for success, I think. But it's not really privy to how organizations are run. Like, again, I'm always harping on Jim Benning, but I don't know what his scouting budget is compared to, say, Chicago.
I'm saying if you have more people helping you, maybe they don't go as early. Maybe they don't make rash decisions. You know what I mean? If us three are making one decision compared to just me making a decision, maybe you guys say, whoa, Cole, like, I don't like, when both you guys say, oh, I don't like this guy, I don't like this move, I don't like this signing, well, maybe
don't take Radulov.
Great sign, Montreal. Should sign again.
No,
That's why Bergevin got canned.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's why. Vancouver, they have a lot of issues. Montreal is definitely in better shape. I think we all agree on that going forward. And good luck to Jimmy Benning. I don't know if you'll get another job as a GM in the NHL after this stint, but you know what? You had a long leash in Vancouver, so enjoy those.
Do Rangers have any opening?
Oh, geez. I hate to see what he'd be paying the boys.
Well,
he'd have a
salary.
7-year contract for junior players. You can only play 3.
Name, image, and likeness deals with Jimmy Benning. Cole, who's the best team in the NHL right now?
I'm still gonna stick with Colorado. It's early. I think they got it. They got to figure out too. Kemper's not playing that well, and McKinnon hasn't been playing really. If you think about it, half the games maybe, I'm not sure, but Edmonton's looking good, but they look good a lot in regular season. I just think, a 7-game series against Colorado. If McKinnon's there, they're pretty damn good. That's a good line. I find it's a really underrated line. Maybe because we're here in Canada, you don't hear as much about it, but Rantanen, Landeskog, and McKinnon are a line, and they bring every aspect. Like Landeskog will bring the sandpaper, and McKinnon and Rantanen are off the charts, I find.
Yeah.
Their defense too. They're not where they should be right now. Maybe like they're not getting.
That's a deadline team that could use some upgrades.
Yeah, but you got to be able to skate. If you can't skate, you're not in there. And I find that team can fly, especially their defense. Like, it's crazy.
They're a little bit.
Well,
they're a little bit seasoned too, right? They've had a few tough losses. They've been in some 7-game series, and I think McKinnon is hungry.
Yeah.
McKinnon and McDavid are both hungry. I wouldn't bet against either one of them, honestly.
When you made that comment about Pettersson losing the puck and not giving a shit, that's not the case there.
No,
not even close.
No, he'll pull a Dan Campbell and he'll bite a kneecap off if he can get that puck back.
Wonder if Dan Campbell's got a gig next year. His Lions are 10-1.
Well, they signed him to a 5-year deal.
Oh, dude.
Long-term deals, they're everywhere. Ranked best team in the NHL.
Edmonton or Colorado, but like McDavid is lights out. Like, it's funny. Trey was texting me the other day, and he's just like, Trey was like, he's the best hockey player that's ever lived ever. And you can't argue with it. And he's hungry too. McKinnon, McDavid, like those guys are going to win multiple cups. So they get in the playoffs. I like their chances. I think they need a goalie back to, because they still got Buddy that was signed Chiarelli's last day on the job. He handed out 15 million, right? So that's still hurting them, but they pick up a goalie. I like Edmonton's chances, and like Toronto's playing well too. So
yeah,
Toronto's won 14 of something lately, and like they're hungry too. So I like those hungry teams that got something to prove, and they got the firepower and the studs to do it.
Yeah, Rankyn's other brother, Kyle Dubas, just making things happen down in Toronto. Gotta love that. Love to see that. Good for Kyle because he takes a lot of beating, and I agree with you. Toronto's playing really well. I said this team from day one. I'm going to stick with them, and I just think they have every aspect. I like the Florida Panthers. I think goalie Bob, another one of Cole's favorites, being a Russian, has played really well so far this year. I think he's in the Vezina discussion. Huberdeau, Sasha, Ekblad is playing himself onto the Olympic team, in my opinion. He's playing that well over the last year and change. With Bennett, the addition of Sam Bennett, they got Sandpaper in the bottom of their lineup. Anton Lundell is a young player, but he already looks like he fits in the NHL. I just love their team. They lost Quenneville, but Brew has come in and done a good job. And, they come back from 3 goals last night against one of the best teams in the NHL. So I just like everything about Florida, and I liked them before the year. I'll stick with them right now, tied atop of the Atlantic.
That's one of the most underrated things in Florida to a T. Reasonable contract. Right? Nothing ridiculous. A lot of good players, but nothing over the top. I mean, Montreal fan, I don't like Boston, but I love the way that their contracts are handled. Like, I can't get over the money that the Boston Bruins make for how good those top players are. And it's just, to me, I hate to give them any credit, but those guys won't. To me, Pasternak, Marchand, and Bergeron. I know Bergeron's deal is a long time ago, but those guys want to win more than they want a couple more dollars in their pocket, and that's what it comes down to. Do you want the money or do you want to win?
The Rangers look pretty good too. I don't know if this year will be their year, but they're not far off. They got a wicked head coach too, so
they're sneaky good. Yeah,
Rangers are a good team.
Mm-hmm. I think they could do some damage in that division because Washington's good, but I don't trust them long term. I to your point, Cole, I think Carolina's a really good team too. They just fundamentally they're very strong on every aspect of the game. But the Rangers are coming, and teams should look over them because they got their guy in net. I think Adam Fox. You talk about studs in the back end. That guy is just a flat out stud, and Panarin is still great. Zibanejad. You got to hope that Lafreniere can take another step because he's been kind of underwhelming so far in his NHL career.
Taco too.
But the good thing about them is they're winning, and these guys aren't under the gun because their teams aren't losing, like situations like Ottawa or Darlene in Buffalo where your team just stinks and it looks like you are a big part of that problem.
We've been talking about money and all this stuff and overpaid too early. What I like about New York is I know Panarin makes some money, but Lafreniere and Kako are nowhere close to these top guys on their team. Fox and Panarin. So like if they're on Ottawa, Buffalo, I still think they can walk in and say, give me $10 million. Or they're not. I don't think they're in the position to say that in New York right now, which is awesome. I love that. Like, yes, you are going to be a great player, but I'm not paying you $10 million today because you're going to be worth it in 10 years. I'll pay it to you in 10 years when you're worth it. I don't know. I think they're in a really good situation for the money contracts. And to Carolina, to me, I know it's not their best player, but you play for Brendan Moore's kind of the Patty Roy aspect, the Joe Sakic, Stevie Y. Mm-hmm. These guys are willing to bust their balls because they know he's busting his balls, right? And you roll into the gym sleeping like some other mate. I don't know Matthews, but he seems like a pretty chill guy. But you roll into the gym and Brendan Moore's benching 2-3 plates, sweating his bag off. Like, fuck, you better get her in gear. Mm-hmm. Because you look like a pansy making $13 million and you can't outwork your 50-year-old coach.
Yeah.
Who's making dime. Like, I don't know. I love Brendan Moore as a coach. Yeah. And I think he gets the most out of his team just because they respect him so much.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, they've had a team with less talent than half the league for the past 5-6 years, yet they stay consistent and they play great every night. And But great conversation today, guys. I don't want to keep us too long here. It's always fun to chat, especially about teams that are in the tank, because it's always funner for content when things aren't going so well in places. But Rankyn, anything on the horizon for you personally or professionally?
Well, just continue to help my brother there with the Rangers, and so far that's been a ton of fun. And Dawson's done a ton of good work, and other staff have. So that's been a fun thing and a learning curve for sure. So anything I say on the show about banning or critically, I think I definitely say it knowing that it's a lot harder to run a team when you're actually sitting in the seat. So but yeah, just working away at that, and pretty much it, big guy.
All right. Cole, how about you? How are home stretch to the Christmas break for you?
Yeah, really, like, teach all year, but I'm just kind of waiting for Montreal's call. I mean, taking a spot, hope for the best. If I have to leave, you know why. But
Yeah. Oh, well, Patty Waugh likes you.
Seamus is going to be looking for a long-term extension on To The Point podcast. He must be coming up on a year, so he's looking for a 7-year deal.
Yeah, today's actually the 1 year.
Is it the 1 year anniversary today?
Yeah, today. So me and Seamus's first podcast. So
congratulations, Noah. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome.
First year extended big.
Yeah.
So yeah, have you enjoyed it, Noah?
Yeah, I love it. It's fun to have a place to vent sometimes, express some thoughts, and it's kind of cathartic at the same time. But it keeps me motivated to keep watching, and always have an opinion. So it's good to have that as well. But no, it's been awesome, and I thank everybody that's come on, like yourselves, like Seamus, who joins me every week, and all the guests that have come on, because I can't do it without you guys. So thank you guys all for the support and for coming on tonight. Most importantly.
Yeah, no problem at all. We love doing it, and it's good. It's fun, and that's what people need nowadays is a few laughs, right? And chat about some stuff. So I think your podcast is doing a great job at that. And if Jimmy Benning gets the hammer there, give me a call and I'll come back on.
Oh, the second he's fired, we will do an emergency podcast. Yeah. We react live to the Vancouver Canucks shakedown whenever that comes. Could come tonight.
You have to go to Vancouver for that one.
Is it Vancouver, Ottawa tonight? That'll just be a riveting contest, that one. Vancouver, Montreal the other night. I forgot. I watched about 5 seconds of it. But guys, thank you as always, and we'll be in touch real soon.
Cheers.
Everybody, thank you for listening tonight. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk soon.